You are watching Channel Africa Conversations.
Al-Bashir himself, he said people are exaggerating numbers. We haven't killed 300,000, we killed only 10,000. So he confessed to killing 10,000 Sudanese.
Hello and welcome to Channel Africa Conversations. I'm Peter Ndoro, your host. 18 months on, the conflict in Sudan has led to a humanitarian catastrophe. More than 14,700 people have lost their lives and more than 8 million people have been internally displaced. And this is not even counting the refugees. Why is this happening? We find out on Channel Africa Conversations. It's been 18 months since the warring factions of the military in Sudan have been fighting, and this has come at a great human cost. We've seen more than 18 million people acutely food insecure as a result of this conflict, and the most vulnerable among them, children. 14 million are in need of humanitarian assistance, with many of them facing malnutrition, a lack of clean water, and disrupted education. Around 4 million children under the age of 5 are suffering from acute malnutrition, and without intervention, hundreds of thousands risk death from starvation. But why is this happening? To help us unpack this, we're now joined by Dr. Abdul Karim Elgoni, who's a Sudanese political analyst. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, and I'm really very happy that you are handling Sudan issues.
Let's perhaps put a bit of context and go back to why this is happening. Where did this current conflict begin? I suspect it's more than 18 months ago that there are some historical realities that are playing out now.
You are right. You see, Sudan had its independence in 1956. And after a very short democracy, the army had a coup and they took over. And they continued for 6 years ruling Sudan. Then there was a revolution in October 1964, who brought a civilian rule, but it couldn't complete even one cycle of democracy. Another coup took on for 16 years. Then in April 85, we had another revolution that brought in a civilian government that stayed less than 4 years also. Another military rule came in for 30 years. So practically all those years it is the army that is ruling. And the army are not politicians. They are technical people like doctors, like engineers. And they took a job that is not their job, and they messed our life, they messed Sudan. And this is the main reason. They created, you can call it the party of the army. And they were ruling Sudan, and they were unable to bring the Sudanese together. So all their thinking was how to hold on to power, not how to govern the country, give it peace, give it harmony, give it education, and create an environment for a country to grow.
2018, 2019, we saw what we thought was a transition to a new order, that civilian rule would return with this revolution. And there was a transitional body that was created. What went wrong?
The 2018, what we call it the revolution of 2018, to all of us and people around Sudan and internationally, there were countries who have never heard about Sudan. They heard about Sudan at this revolution. It was the whole Sudanese were thirsty for democracy, for civilian rule. And the army just stooped to conquer again. It allows our civilian government to stay, not completing 2 years. They had another coup. We thought that the party of the army have seen what all the international community have seen of the Sudanese need to democracy. And being Sudanese, they will recognize this right for the Sudanese and allow them. You see, the slogan of the revolution was حرية سلام وعدالة, peace, uh, uh, freedom, peace, and justice. And this is something that they could have done.
Al-Bashir is gone, but it feels and sounds like his handiwork is still at play.
Yes, it's true. Al-Bashir is not a person. Al-Bashir is a system. It's a system that ruled the country with terror, with a carrot and the stick. I came to Southern Africa in 1992 after spending 7 months in jail. And when I came out of jail, they said to me, either you work with us or we are not allowing you to have any job. They closed my clinic. They prevented me from getting any job, and I had to leave the country. And there were thousands like me. 450,000 public sector employees were sent out of job because they were not following the line. So that system is still continuing. And this is what the people of Sudan now are working very hard to dismantle. And we are not going to stop until we dismantle it.
Bashir then created the RSF that were the Janjaweed, and so has set up the current conflict. Why is the RSF fighting the National Army?
You see, the Janjaweed were formed in Darfur, I think in 1990 something, to try and defend West Kordofan, Darfur included, from the rebel movement that have started mainly in Darfur, but also in South Kordofan and on all the west of Sudan. And they were very successful. When they became successful, it seems that some army officers said, why should we leave all this country for al-Bashir? Why don't we have a good share of it? And al-Bashir became scared. So instead of leaving the Janjaweed as a militia, he decided to create an official army, and not a second official army. And he took his idea to Parliament, and Parliament enacted a law, passed it, that al-Bashir signed as an army. And when he signed it as an army, he said, Himeti is Himaiti. Himeti is my protection. So he used it against the other part of the army to stay in power as long as he can. I think he wanted to stay for life. Yes.
So pre-Bashir's exit, there were already tensions within the army. So it was almost set up that after Bashir, something was going to erupt.
Exactly.
And this is where we are now.
This is where we are now. But there are other dimensions into this. You see, al-Bashir, when he had his coup, he was supported mainly by the Muslim Brotherhood of Sudan. And the Muslim Brotherhood of Sudan has links with the International Brotherhood movement. And they wanted to use Sudan as a base. And they ruled it for 30 years as a base. Almost everyone, from Bin Laden to whoever you can call him, were in Sudan. The problem that happened is this. When we had the revolution in December 2018, part of the army, which is the RSF, said enough is enough. The Sudanese have suffered under my hands for too much. They apologized to the Sudanese. Himeti stood up and said, I apologize to the Sudanese. And from now on, I want us to start with this power of the revolution. We go to a civilian government, and I will support a civilian government and dissolve my army into the army or whatever. So, but the other army, which is a remnant of the army that was ruling Sudan for 6 years, refused this decision. And this is what created the conflict between the two armies.
And the citizens now are caught in the middle of a military civil war, essentially.
Exactly.
That's got nothing to do with the citizens.
This is why it is said when the elephants fight, it is the grass that suffers. You see, let me put it to you in another way. You see, our army for 60 years, they have never fought a war outside Sudan. So all the people that the army have killed with the taxpayers' money were all Sudanese. They killed, they say, 2 million people in South Sudan until South Sudan seceded. They killed officially 300,000 people, as the United Nations says, in Darfur alone, not counting Kurdistan or the other parts of Sudan. Al-Bashir himself, he said people are exaggerating numbers. We haven't killed 300,000, we killed only 10,000. So he confessed to killing 10,000 Sudanese. No one knows the figures.
General Burhan, that was a coup when he hijacked the transitional government. What is the RSF fighting for? What is their end game?
You see, Al-Burhan said on an interview on TV that his father came to him while he was asleep and told him, you will be ruling Sudan. And he wanted to fulfill his late father's will. And Hemeti wasn't happy with this. Maybe Hemeti himself has also ambitions to be something. And there is only one chair. There is only one chair. And Burhan has a lot of supporters in the army and a lot of supporters of the previous regime who wanted him to continue. Not only him, there are a number of neighboring countries who have interest in the last 60 years that the country should be under a military rule. One man with a hierarchy, we speak to him, the orders go down. But when it is a civilian government, there will be different parties, they can't convince everyone, so it's better for them, a country to be ruled by one man. So they supported the Burhan to go on for a coup and push the civilians off.
Before we start exploring perhaps a journey towards peace, if that's possible, let's talk a little bit about the consequences of the current conflict. Let's start with the humanitarian situation on the ground. What are you hearing about what's happening right now?
It's very bad and it's very saddening. How do I put it to you? People are dying every day in every part of Sudan because the official army under Al-Burhan was angry that the people who are supporting the RSF are from the peripheries of Sudan. So he has planes that fly every day 3, 4, 5 times, hitting different targets. What they do is they said they have what they call the military barrels. They have barrels with ammunition and petrol and whatever in it, and the plane comes flying and throws it down. This is a blind bullet. It falls wherever it falls. And they choose markets because they say on the market days, the RSF leave their places and come to the market. They are doing the same way the Israelis are doing. The Israelis, they think in this building there is one person from Hamas, but there are 500 civilians. They destroy the whole building because of one person. And this is what the army is doing in Sudan. The same thing, the RSF. Whenever they enter a place, it is war. War doesn't give you roses. It only gives bullets and suffering. So people, they don't have peace in their houses. They don't have peace in the market. They don't have jobs. For 2 consecutive agricultural seasons, they were unable to cultivate their land. 2 years, no education. Children are losing their education. The universities are closed. Fortunately, there are some universities who have resources. They have opened branches outside the country, so some doctors, some engineers could graduate and go on for jobs. But the majority of the Sudanese are going backward very badly.
So we hear stories of genocide ethnic cleansing being committed by the RSF. Is that what's happening, that people are being killed just because they're not Arab?
That is not the case. The RSF, as well as the army, is composed of almost every tribe in Sudan. And as I told you, there is a system. The system is unhappy that the periphery, people in the periphery, are fighting for their rights. So he is manipulating the system to create, I don't know, I think it is a British rule that says divide and rule. So they create those divisions among people. And there are local fighting between tribes. Within the Arab tribes, within the African tribes, between African tribes and Arab tribes, those fightings have been going on through the whole history of Sudan. It is true, now they became more vicious because people have more power, attacking power. Previously, they were dying with spears and knives. Now they are multi. So it is true, people are dying from all tribes, from all locations in Sudan.
So the Masalit are saying that they are being killed for being Masalit.
That might be not a true statement. The Masalit are the majority tribe in West Darfur, in Jinene area. And the Masalit are the most peaceful, nice people. They put the system put them in a collision course with RSF. And it was inevitable.
So then, beyond just the RSF fighting the National Army, there are still tribal tensions that are existing in Sudan? Or is this something that's just being made worse as a result of the fighting?
You see, in 2020, the system, al-Bashir system, decided to create additional paramilitary forces. When the RSF said, I'm standing with the civilian rule, they said we have to defeat this. So they created they created one in the north, one in central Sudan, 2 or 3 in the east, all paramilitary forces. And at the same time, they brought back their old military, Qaeda-like paramilitaries. And all those were brought together to fight. Just to give you a small thing. The ruler of RSF in Jazeera State, his name is Kekal, was fighting with RSF all this time. Suddenly last week, he decided to leave RSF and go back to the army where he started. So this is just one indication. There are so many like them in the east, in the west, in central Sudan. And this is what we are saying. We want one national army that is doing his job of protecting the country and not getting involved in politics or trade. They're refusing that.
So we're also hearing RSF has been accusing Egypt of supporting Burhan's faction in fighting RSF. Could this be true? And if so, are there other international actors that are involving themselves in this conflict?
On Monday, RSF downed the plane. And in the plane, there were 2 Russian pilots and 3 Sudanese. So this is the only proof we have that there are international involvement in Sudan. We hear it. Let me put it very frankly to you. Egypt was very happy there is a military government in Sudan. And this has been there. Egypt was accused of supporting every coup that has happened in Sudan, of supporting every of oppressing every movement to stop the military rule in Sudan. But we don't have that proof. Politics happens under the table. The Ethiopians have their own agenda. See, the Emirates and Saudi Arabia, they had more than 50,000 Sudanese officers fighting with them in Yemen. So the Americans, they want their hegemony all over the world. They have interest in Sudan. Britain, which is the previous ruler of Sudan, has its interest. So we cannot say there is no interest. But the proof we have is two things. That Al-Burhan has opened the embassy for Iran and said we wanted Iran again, and we heard that Iranian planes were bringing things to and then those two Russians, those who have been killed. People are hearing that the Emirates is supporting RSF militarily and with other things, but there wasn't others other than international interest in Sudan.
Is this a conflict that can become regional? South Sudan must be concerned watching what's playing out.
It is regional. It's already regional. Because what the government is saying, Hemeti is recruiting people not only from West Sudan, but recruiting from all the Sahel, which is Chad, Niger, up to Nigeria. He's saying there are people there who are nomad Arabs who wanted to come and settle in Sudan. So it is already those internal. Already we have the water issue bringing Ethiopia and other African countries into the system. Already we have people accusing United Arab Emirates of this. Already we have Hemeti who is saying, I have Egyptian soldiers in my captivity and I will bring them to talk that they have been participating in the war. So almost all the region is in Sudan. The problem is this. Sudan for the last 30, 50 years was hosting refugees from all its neighbors, from Ethiopia, from Eritrea, far away to Somalia, from Chad, from you name it, you name it. And if this conflict went out of hand, all those countries, those people will be exported back to where they are and they will create trouble.
So what is holding back the idea of peace? Who is to blame when they're apart from each other? They seem to be creating the impression they want to end the conflict, but their actions don't seem to match these words.
You see, power is an addiction to me. When you are in power, you won't be happy to go out of the chair of power. The army was in power for more than 60 years. It was very difficult for them to leave this seat of power. So seeing a civilian rule for 18 months was so difficult for them that they went for a coup. They could have, and they were governing together with the civilians. They could have asked the civilians, please let us continue this from 3 years to 6 years, to 9 years, and let the peace continue. It could have happened. Unfortunately, the army now is fighting each other. And one part of the army is saying, I am with the civilians. So practically now, as we talk, there are two teams in Sudan. A team that is fighting for democracy, civilian rule, and citizenship. And there is a team that is fighting for the old dictatorial system. They change their hats at different times. Today, they will do it because we are the army. Tomorrow, they say we are doing it because we want to defend Sudan from the people who are coming from outside Sudan. Tomorrow, they say we are the best who have ruled the country. We can do this and this for you. We are the ones who brought the petrol. But all in all, it is the pro-democracy people and the dictatorial pro-system. This is what is happening now in Sudan. The Americans, the Saudis, the Emiratis, the the UA, the African Union, the IGAD, the European, South Africa, all people in the world wanted Sudan to move to civilian rule, except the army of Sudan, headed by Al-Burhan, and his supporters of the Muslim Brotherhood. They don't want any civilian rule in Sudan. They don't want democracy. They wanted the old system of oppression to continue, and the Sudanese are adamant. They are not going to allow that back. And actually, I am one of them. I will do whatever is in my hand. You see, I think 10 days ago, President Mbeki Foundation had a conference here. It's called Africa Peace and Security Conference. They invited both the army and RSF, and they told them, we wanted to see a solution to this problem. Why should you fight? There is no cause for it. And both agreed, and they came here. I met Agar, the deputy of Al-Burhan, and I said to him, I'm really very happy that you came here. I hope you will meet the RSF. And he said, no, we are not going to meet the RSF. Immediately when the RSF arrived, he left. So what I want to say is there is no intention not to make peace. There is no intention even to look like you are making peace other than to talk.
So what is the solution then? Do people wait until they kill each other? People can't just watch and do nothing because of this humanitarian catastrophe that's playing out.
This is why we are saying the international community and democracy-loving people like South Africans have a responsibility to assist the Sudanese to gain their citizenship, to gain democracy, to have civilian rule. And this can happen in 3 dimensions. The first dimension is to push strongly for the humanitarian corridors. This is something that both parties have agreed to in Jeddah, the first Jeddah meeting. So this is something that is implementable. We can use it as an entry point to a ceasefire. And then during the ceasefire, people might come to their senses and sit down and negotiate. Maybe in 2 or 3 years of ceasefire, we can find a complete cessation of hostilities, and a new system can be in Sudan that will be part of the international community. By the way, Sudan now is not part of the international community. It's out of the AU, it's out of every regional and international organization because it is a military coup. We want it to be part of the international community.
Might it take yet another civilian revolution?
No, the revolution having to stop. The revolution having to stop. People in the media, which was one of the main tools we used to strengthen the revolution, is going on. It has never stopped. Till on Monday, we celebrated the 21st of October 1964. And I'm telling you, even Hamdok, our prime minister, has had a speech on this. And the Sudanese from all the diaspora were doing it. Only the Sudanese inside, because inside, if you wanted to celebrate, you lose your life.
Are you hopeful that there's some
Yes,
hope at the end?
I am very hopeful. You see, the 60 years of civilian of military rule have created an awareness of my rights and responsibilities, especially rights. And we have seen this in 2018. Women were always in the back seat. In 2018, women were shakers and movers in the revolution. This Sudanese awareness is so strong that it will never allow oppression in Sudan again. And this is the force that I am hoping will bring peace to Sudan, will push Burhan, and will push Hemeti and whoever is supporting the two warring factors to stop the war and go into negotiations, because without negotiations there is no future for Sudan. We don't want Sudan to be divided into 4 or 5 countries. It has to continue. Even South Sudan, we are all South Sudanese. And if you see that the Sudan has an African match in Juba, you can see that we are one nation in 2 countries.
Dr. Elgoni, I wish we could talk for longer, but thank you so much for your valuable insights into the situation in Sudan. And let's just hope that some political will on some level from different areas can come to the fore here and help the millions of people that are suffering as we speak.
Thank you very much. And being a Sudanese South African, we wanted to go beyond just giving support to political and social support to the Sudanese. We wanted to do a movement in South Africa to collect humanitarian aid to the Sudanese, medicines, perishables, non-perishables, whatever we can do. And I hope that in the coming weeks we will communicate with you. We need your support so that we can get as much as we can to assist the refugees and the displaced people in Sudan. And I thank you very much for handling Sudan issue, and we could please continue until you see a democracy in Sudan, and we see you in Sudan. So
we look forward to that. Thank
you.
you so much, Dr. Elgoni.
Thank you very much.
And that's where we leave today's episode of Channel Africa Conversations. Before we go, though, please, we'd love to hear from you. Please contact us, share your thoughts and your messages on our social media pages, which are on your screen now. And you can even give us suggestions about the kind of conversations you'd like to see here on the program. Until the next one, take care.
You are watching Channel Africa Conversations.